Hello and welcome to episode 385 of 5-Star Potential, your weekly Football Manager podcast. It has only taken about 3 years, but because Doop isn't here, we have an Irishman at the wheel. And I am delighted to say I am joined by Mr. Dave Azzopardi. Dave, how are you doing? Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year, man. Yeah, we missed last week's, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a bit of a recharge week.
Yeah, which we needed to. Obviously, with most content between Christmas and New Year, it's so hard to find some time to get us all to sit together, especially with the amount of rubbish that we talk before and after the podcast, I suppose. But no, it's nice to have a little recharge, and it's nice to hear your dulcet tones. I don't know if people will be pleasantly surprised or turn off straight away, mate, as soon as the podcast starts, but we'll wait and see.
Well, yeah, we'll take a look at the numbers and see.
Retention.
But yeah, it was hard to get a podcast in because Doop was afraid to see me. He's afraid to face me, Dave, after Newcastle demolished Man United and just embarrassed them for the first.
I thought you might pipe, but now they've actually got a point. We beat them as well a couple of weeks ago. Wolves beat them.
Yeah.
That's probably. I reckon that's why he's not showed up, mate, today. That must be why.
Yeah. He's fully got his head in the sand, but we're here to keep the things going. And Happy New Year, listeners. Obviously, it's our first podcast of 2025. But Dave, we have been playing some Football Manager, which we're going to come on to because we had another challenge. And I know a few of our listeners were doing it as well. So we're going to come to that shortly. But we could do highlights of the week, lowlights of the week, or you could just tell me what was the highlight of your Christmas and New Year's, Dave. How drunk did you get? Or did you do anything silly?
I didn't. It was quite a quietish one, I suppose. I didn't drink it too much on around Christmas. Christmas Eve I had a quiet one. I stayed at my girlfriend and her family's. Like all my friends went out, so I was getting calls at midnight on Christmas Eve. But I was genuinely in bed, like asleep, and my phone woke me up. So I had a quiet Christmas. New Year was a little. I went out to like one of the local pubs, and that was pretty cool, to be fair. Again, my girlfriend and her family. But yeah, it happens too quick, doesn't it? I'm already back at work now as well. I've been back at work a few days. So it just feels like we're back to reality. And Wolves haven't played this weekend. They play Monday night, so they haven't ruined my weekend as of yet. Yeah, we've had a nice little bounce since the new manager's come in, which is good. But yeah, I enjoyed it. But like I said, it just goes far too quick, doesn't it? I'm flagging a little bit now. First weekend since the New Year, isn't it? And I'm sort of flagging. I'm so tired. So thankfully, I've got a day off tomorrow anyway.
It's always hard to go back or just to get back into any kind of sense of normality where there's just kind of days that blend into each other and there's like what we do mainly is I was just at home for most of it, like out with the folks or out with the family, and there was just days where I was kind of just keeping a constant level of drinking cans or having some Prosecco and just not drunk, not sober. And that went for about 3 days. But I think, do you know what I love about Christmas and at that time of year, there's just so much football. And just like, especially now, obviously my highlight's going to be Newcastle. We've now won 6 games on the bounce, 5 in the league, up to 5th. And all the other teams around us. Man, Isak, Tonali, Bruno, man, it's unbelievable. Even
Tonali back on it. Honestly, I know you say about the football.
Tonali's brilliant.
I've struggled to sit down and watch, like even United Liverpool played today. Obviously, we're recording this Sunday. I didn't even watch that. I've not seen any of the highlights or anything. So I've struggled to watch it. So I wasn't even aware that he was sort of back in and amongst it.
Oh yeah, he's been brilliant. So he basically Eddie Howe was. He came back from his ban and Eddie Howe was kind of playing him on the right of a midfield 3 and he was keeping Bruno in the middle and he's flipped it and it's changed everything. So like the catalyst of this 6 games in a row has been basically dropping Sandro in his DM. And man, he's been phenomenal. He's been man of the match at least 3 times. And I've loved Tonali from Football Manager perspective.
A lot of Football Manager fans would remember him. So
remember Tonali at Brescia before he went to Milan. Man, he was unbelievable. So he's definitely living up to it anyway, and it's a good time. And I was going to ask you actually, because just before we started recording, we were talking about FM, and obviously you're the Wolves researcher, as many people know. If you ever wonder why Adama Traore has still got 20 pace and 20 acceleration,
it's playing the Fulham researcher now.
The legacy of Dave Azzopardi. But I'd say Matheus Cunha is going to need a bit of a bump because he's had quite a good few months, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean he's already quite good on the game. It just feels so long because obviously the current game that we're still playing, FM24, I would have done the majority of the attributes for that nearly 18 months ago, really. Obviously, you make little tweaks for the winter update, which would have been 12 months ago. So, yeah, we'll wait and see, for FM25. But, yeah, he's very good in the game already. I'm sure I'll be able to tweak a couple of things. But, yeah, it sounds like Wall's going to tie him down to a new contract as well, which is unbelievable. But that's going to more than likely have some sort of release clause in it. So we may not see him in a Wall shirt for much longer. But yeah, he's been very, very good. Although he is suspended for the next 2 games for smacking that Ipswich security guard or whatever he did. So
I think he
thankfully
might
for
be
us,
out for Newcastle against Wolves as well, no? Eyes
no,
emoji.
he should be back because it's the Forest game,
He?
and then
Okay.
he'll miss the FA Cup next week. However, he did
FA
come
Cup
off
is
with a
on,
slight knock against Spurs last week. So if he is still injured after that, maybe. But no, I think Newcastle might be his first game back. Possibly. I
Okay,
don't know.
typical.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We're
Well,
going to
yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And sort of, sorry, pre-FM25 content, which we do on here, we may well do an episode on players that maybe are going to have a big bump. I think we did. I can't even remember. Everything's sort of blurred into one. We did an episode on some FM25 stuff when we thought the game was dropping around November. But over the next few weeks, we will probably do things like that. Players maybe to look out for ahead of, fingers crossed, the beta, which shouldn't be too far away, maybe.
Hopefully not. Because we did a good episode on young players that are going to be making their debuts and stuff. So I'd say, the next one could be players who are going to get a bump. And hopefully they're not all Wolves players, listeners. And,
no, there won't be. We're still doing quite poorly. I know we've had a little bit of a rise in form recently, but there won't be much changes, I don't think.
Okay, time will tell, and hopefully not too long to wait. Right, let's crack on. We said we were playing some Football Manager. Unfortunately, Doop isn't here, but the 3 of us took on a little challenge. It was Doop's idea. He must have done terribly because he was afraid again to show his face and talk about it. Maybe he got Arsenal relegated. But if anyone doesn't remember, the challenge was basically to take over Arsenal starting from the 1st of March, but with a Christmas twist, because the task we were given was we had to deploy a Christmas tree tactic, which, Dave, was basically, I suppose you can call it a 4-3-2-1
narrow.
In a basically triangle shape.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. Myself and Dave are going to go through how we did. We know how Doop did as well, actually. He did tell us because he was supposed to be with us, but he got called into work. So we do know how Doop got on. So Dave, we might let you start, and we'll start with just the tactic itself, because the tactic was programmed in, so we couldn't really make any changes to the formation. But I'm interested to just hear your first 11 to start with. Who did you put into which roles?
Well, you'll sort of understand throughout my sort of story, and I had to tweak things because I was going on a bit of a spoiler. I went on a terrible run of form and I was really, really struggling. I think probably the key with this tactic is your balance of your midfield 3 and what roles you've got now as attacking midfield 2 as well, because ultimately it's how you're going to create the width and how you're going to get the ball into the back of the net, really, without sort of wide players whipping the ball in or whatever. So obviously David Raya was the number 1. The backup goalkeeper was Neto, who I don't think played a single game for me. So David Raya. Back 4, I ended up using the fullbacks. It's quite attacking, but Arsenal aren't really gifted with natural attacking sort of wing-back fullbacks, because obviously you have Ben White, they've got Tomiyasu, who is sort of a centre-back as well. The Italian lad, is it Calafiori, could play centre-back. So they're not sort of out-and-out fullbacks. So in the end, my sort of best back 4, I'll say, was actually Kieran Tierney at left-back as a wing-back attack.
Interesting.
Gabriel and Saliba both as the centre-backs, and then Ben White as a wing-back attack as well. The midfield 3 I sort of settled on was, for the majority, Declan Rice, Thomas Partey and Ødegaard. Ødegaard as a central midfield attack, Partey as a DLP defend, and Rice as a Carrilero. But Partey and Rice can sort of change a little bit. And then Havertz in that number 10 role. It was with Horta, who Arsenal had signed, if you remember when Doop explained last time. Well, he got injured towards the end, so I was deploying Saka there as a Trequartista, which was interesting. And then Gabriel Jesus as an advanced forward up top. It's frustrating because the likes of Martinelli, you struggle to get in. Sterling, I don't think had a kick for me. Saka, I struggled for a long time to get him to break into the team. So that 11 that I've just explained there was the sort of 11 that I'd settled on towards the end of the season, where, again, spoilers, I did go on a nice little run towards the end of the campaign.
Interesting. It'd be interesting to see if you tweaked it along the way as well, if you needed to, from what you
I'll explain that as I go as well. Yeah.
Excellent. So I had a couple of differences in my lineup. So Raya in goals, obviously. I didn't even realize that Neto had gone there. Like in real life, I just kind of forgot it happened. So my back four then, I actually put Ben White as a wing back because I wanted somebody to be moving forward on the width, like on the flanks. So I put Ben White as a wing back because he's fairly good in terms of like his pace and stuff like that. So he has the attributes to do it. I then put Calafiori on the other side, but I put him as an inverted fullback. So it's that whole idea of Ben White's pushing on and then the three are shifting over. And obviously it's Gabriel and Saliba in the middle. My midfield then, midfield three, I put Rice in the middle as a DLP on defend. So just again, keeping him kind of not too far from the back four, but getting involved as a playmaker, let's say. Then I put Mikel Merino on the right as a Carrilero. It's interesting because you mentioned Carrilero as well.
Yeah.
I've been having really good success in my Deportivo save with the Carrilero. The guy I've been playing there, Luca Lepani, has just been unbelievable. So I wanted to kind of keep that going. I've seen a few other people using it as well. And then I put Odegaard on the left of the three as a Mazzala. And again, spoilers, but he got a truckload of assists. He actually got 12 goals and 15 assists in the season.
I used to love the Mazzala back in the day. I've not used it in ages, that role.
Yeah.
I did try it for a little bit. I dabbled with it
mobile,
for a little bit on this. Yeah.
It's quite a role in terms of mobility. Just kind of fills up space basically. What you want is a player like Odegaard to be finding half spaces basically. So that actually worked really well. I put Havertz in the AM. I put him as a shadow striker actually because I really wanted him to be pushing on as if it was two strikers. And I had no idea what to do with Saka. It was really annoying me because he's just perfect to play on the right cutting in. So I did exactly what you did. I played him as a trequartista. And spoilers, it didn't impact. I couldn't get a whole lot out of him it was March, April, May, so we had about 3 months of it. But he just wasn't very influential, considering how influential he is for Arsenal now. Like he's got 10 assists and 6 goals. Like I was looking at their stats today. The closest in terms of the second most assists for Arsenal in real life is Declan Rice with 3. So that's how much they're missing in Saka now. So I just couldn't get him going. And then I put Gabby Jesus then as an advanced forward.
I look at Saka's attributes, like he's unbelievable. So to have to play him sort of out of position is tough. But I was just looking, I thought, because he's very versatile. Obviously, he played, I think, wing back or left back even early on in his career as well. But I do wonder what would have happened if I stuck him at left back for the majority of the challenge. I know it sounds daft and almost feels like a waste.
It did go through my mind. It did go through my mind.
His attributes, he could pretty much play anywhere with those attributes, to be fair.
Yeah. He's unbelievable in the game. And I wonder, he might even go up again because he's been very good this season.
Yeah.
But like he was obviously, when I look, he had a good season overall. But like we've obviously started this from March. And obviously when I made the change, he just wasn't very impactful after that. Yeah. So a lot of his goals and assists came before because obviously it was in Arsenal's normal system. And he's on pens as well. And he got quite a few pens in the season before we took over. Right, that's the tactic out of the way. We've talked about some of the roles as well. We can probably just go straight into the fixtures. So what we might just do is just go month by month really quickly. Again, it's only 3 months, so it's not too bad. So at the time we're taking over in the saved, Arsenal were second in the league. Can't remember the gap. I don't know if you can remember, Dave.
I think it's pretty close. I think a couple of points. I think City were 2 points ahead, I think.
Yeah. And so basically also still in the Champions League as well. So going into March, it's the round of 16 second leg and then an FA Cup quarter final against Manchester United. So the month opened with Ipswich, Dave. How did you get on?
I did beat Ipswich 2-1. Again, it was such a weird one because it's the first time you're using that tactic and it just felt like it was a little bit slow. And I remember when I was playing them, a lot of the highlights were in favour of Ipswich. And I thought, oh no. But to be fair, in terms of actual match stats, we were battering them. And I just thought it was just a matter of time before we were going to score a goal. We got the lead with Saliba with about half an hour to go, which was from a corner. And then Trossard towards the end, he came off the bench and scored a late goal. Thought 2-0 in the first game. Brand new team, new tactics, not too bad. But Ipswich did nick a consolation goal right at the end, Harry Clark, 2-1. So, I take it. It's one of those because this is an updated database. So on paper, Ipswich should still have championship quality players. Yeah. And we've got title challenges. So that sort of did stick in my mind a little bit that we probably should be beating Ipswich a little bit more comfortably than 2-1, to be honest. But because we won the game, I sort of cracked on with it from there.
Fair. I drew 3-3 with Ipswich in my first game. Well, I was 2-0 up at half time. Very comfortable. It's the first game you're playing with this tactic that I've never really ever used before. And
Yeah.
then Sammy Smolik got one literally on the kickoff, which you rarely see. And then Delap brought it to 3. Sorry, no, we went 3-1 up then. Ben White scored on 58. And then Delap brings it to 3-2 on 75. And in the 92nd minute, Gabriel decides to score an own goal. It basically
Oh
just went
boy.
off of it in. It was a shambles. So I'm glad Doop's not here to hear that, because that was a shambolic start. What you could do then is, if you want to go through the rest of the games, so we
Yep.
have an Atalanta in the Champions League round of 16, second leg. The first leg was 2-1 back in February before we started this challenge. And then, you could just close out the month then with each game, Dave.
Yeah. So Atalanta, we made real hard work of this. And this is where maybe alarm bells started to ring a little bit for me. They scored a penalty in the first half, which obviously would have put it 2-2 on aggregate. And we really, really struggled to get back into the game. It went to extra time in the end. I tweaked a few things. I sort of went a little bit more attacking because really I didn't want it to go to penalties because obviously, it's a bit of a lottery. But ultimately, we should have been better and stronger than them anyway. This was before I sort of knew how to get the best out of Saka, so who's coming off the bench, and having a player of that quality with fresh legs coming off the bench was definitely helping. So in the end, we did score 2 goals in extra time. Bukayo Saka scoring, and then Kieran Tierney, who came off the bench, wrapped it up in the 120th minute as well. So we beat Atalanta 2-1 after extra time, so we were through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. The rest of the month was a little bit of a disaster, and if you looked at the rest of the fixtures, which we'll talk about, this is probably the month you would earmark as where you're going to get your points and put the pressure on City. And I failed massively. First game against Brighton, we lost 1-0 at home. Evan Ferguson with the only goal of the game. We battered them, to be fair. I mean, if we look very, very quickly, I say battered, I think they grew into it in the second half, but 23 shots for us to their 11. They had just 3 on target and they beat us 1-0. Their XG 1.3, our XG 2.24. The next game was the FA Cup quarter final against West Ham. We lost that on penalties. Drew 0-0 in normal time and lost out on penalties again. 15 shots for us, just 8 for them. But in terms of XG, we didn't really threaten them, so it was a little bit frustrating to lose on penalties. Aston Villa back in the league. We lost 1-0 away at Villa Park. Ollie Watkins with the only goal of the game. We really struggled in this game. Just a 0.18 XG. 19 shots of Villa to our 6. Just a really, really poor performance. However, we did get back to winning ways right at the end of the month. We beat Crystal Palace 2-1. Horta with both goals. Mateta with a consolation right at the end. So Brighton and Villa, but look, good teams, but you probably expect to be getting points from them. Frustrating to be knocked out of the FA Cup, but I suppose it allowed me to focus a bit more on the Champions League and the league. But yeah, nice to get the 3 points at the end of the month, beating Palace anyway.
Dave, we had very similar fortunes in this month.
Oh, okay.
So as I mentioned, we're 2-1 up against Atalanta, playing them away in the second leg. We went 1-0 up, they equalised, then they went 2-1 up, so it levelled it, and we went to extra time, just like you. And I had to throw on Gabriel Martinelli, completely out of position again, because Saka was just having a shit game. And he scored in the 116th minute to put us through to the next round. And I won't lie, I was sweating there, because I was thinking, okay, out of the Champions League and drawing with Ipswich in your first 2 games was a shaky start. Managed to beat Brighton 4-2 though. Gabby Hayes got a brace in that one. Evan Ferguson scored, which you always love to see, because we take your bingo cards. I've said Evan Ferguson's name on the podcast. I had Man United in the FA Cup quarterfinal, as I said. We lost 1-0. Rasmus Højlund scored, and we just didn't create. We were just never. It was one of those games where we were just never going to score. So similar to you, allows us to focus on the Champions League. Came out of that with a bit of a hangover. It's only 2 or 3 days. Played Villa. John Duran scores a brace, as he does in real life, and they were cracking goals as well. And they beat us 3-1 away. So that wasn't ideal. But then we finished out with a comfortable 2-0 win over Palace as well. So not too bad.
Very
2
similar,
wins, 2 draws, and 2 defeats. Yeah, but very similar.
Yeah.
So then we're going into April. So first question for you, Dave. Who did you get in the Champions League quarterfinal?
I got RB Leipzig, which is a very favourable draw, I'd say.
I got PSG.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So we started that month with a home fixture in the league against Man United. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really tough month. I mean, in terms of league fixtures, it was United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, and I lost every single one of them. I was
Oof.
absolutely awful. The United game we lost 3-2, which was a little bit frustrating. We went ahead twice actually. Kai Havertz scoring in the first half, Bruno Fernandes and equalised. Gabby Jesus put us back 2-1 ahead, and then Marcus Rashford and then Højlund won it late on. We then had the first leg of the Champions League against RB Leipzig. We drew 1-1. Which wasn't a bad result, but I was just a little bit concerned because by that Palace game, at that point, we'd won including that Palace game, we'd won 1 in 5, which was a little bit concerning. And then we played Liverpool in the league. We lost 2-0. Nico Gonzalez scored for them just before half time. Then Chiesa scored in the second half. And then the second leg against Leipzig, we beat them 4-1 away. Something just clicked. I don't know what it was.
Nice.
We were unbelievable. Ødegaard, I think this is probably one of the first games where I changed the system because the midfield balance just wasn't right. And that's when I changed Ødegaard to a centre mid attack. And he scored twice. Both goals in the first 9 minutes of the game. Jesus put us 3-0 up. Baumgartner made it 3-1. And then Zinchenko wrapped it up for 4-1. We then lost out to Chelsea 1-0. Enzo Fernandez with the only goal of the game. This was a bit frustrating because after we'd beaten Leipzig 4-1, I thought, okay, maybe we've turned a corner. Maybe we can start getting some results. At home to Chelsea, we had 18 shots, 6 on target. They had 1 shot on target all game, which was their goal. So really, really frustrating to lose out on that game, especially as Chelsea on this save hadn't really been performing brilliantly. And then we played Spurs away. That's a big one, really, because at this point, City are gaining a lot of space on us. Spurs away, always going to be a massive game. North London derby. We lost 4-0. Genuinely, probably our worst performance of the say. I actually thought I was going to get sacked after this because at that point I'd won 2 league games and then against Palace and Ipswich, and I'd lost pretty much so much room in the title race. Danny Namasso. So if people remember, this is Danny Loader. He used to play for Reading years ago.
Yeah.
He's playing for Spurs. I didn't even think he was any good on this game anymore. He scored twice. Heung-min Son and Papa Matar Sarr scored. But yeah, Spurs 18 shots to our 3. They had a 2.8 XG. They were unbelievable. I mean, can I have a quick look at Danny Loader? I mean, he looks all right, to be fair.
He was good back in the day, like maybe FM.
Wolves were linked with him loads, and then he went to Reading.
Mm.
Not Reading, Porto from Reading, I remember. I don't know how he's doing in IRL, if anyone wants to let us know. So yeah, that was that month. I think after that Spurs game as well, bearing in mind it was the end of April, City had won the league at that point on my save. That's how much I'd sort of thrown it away.
You're getting sacked in the morning.
I genuinely thought I would. I genuinely thought I was going to get sacked.
Okay, we'll find out if you did. On my side, the month started unbelievably. Smashed Man United. Such a banter club. 5-0. Jesus got another brace. Actually, Jesus is quite good in this game. And I'd say his injury record just doesn't really replicate as much as it should.
Yeah.
So then, beat Man United 5-0. Just hammered them. I think it was, Jesus got like a 9.2. I think he had 2 goals and maybe an assist or 2. Then we came and played PSG at home in the Champions League. And it was 2-2. And in the 92nd minute, again, substitute Gabriel Martinelli scored to make it 3-2 in the first leg, obviously at home. And they've such a good team. Like the players in there. I think they signed Lucas Torreira because he was starting for them. I don't think that's a real life signing. But like did Zaire Emery playing, and Colin Moani is good in the game, and Hakimi obviously. So I was happy with that. To obviously have a bit of an advantage, even though we had to go and play them away in the second leg. In between that, though, I managed to go and lose 5-0 to Liverpool.
Oh, wow.
Salah was just, I think, similar story. He had 2 goals and 2 assists. I think he had I don't know if he had a 10. I'll have to look. I think it was a 10 or a 9.8 or 6 rating. Like, it was ridiculous. We just couldn't do anything about him. And I thought, having that inverted fullback on the left might help. It didn't. Salah just ran rings. So we go and play PSG in Paris, and just on the brink of halftime, Kai Havertz scores for us to make it 4-2. Now, Dave, you know what's going to happen here. Warren Zaire-Emery scores on 57. We kick off, we lose the ball, and Kang In Lee scores on 58. like bang, bang, goals. Suddenly they're right back in it. So by that point, then it's 2-1, so everything's level. And then on 77 minutes, Saka finally decided to score a goal for me in this Arsenal save.
Good.
After doing very little for us so far, he scored to put us through to what would be the Champions League semi-final. And I'll tell you who the opponent was in that in a minute. I lost 1-0 to Chelsea as well. Almost identical situation. It was like very low chances. Benoit Badiashile scored for them and got man of the match. Why? I don't know. And that was a home game as well, even more sickeningly. But in that derby against Tottenham, Saka decided to keep things going. We beat them 2-1. We were 2-0 up. It was 2-1 at half time, and it just stayed that way for the whole rest of the game. So we managed to kind of pick that up. That was a big win, really, to have after losing to Liverpool and Chelsea in the league as well. So kept us, I suppose, in and around second or third at the time. But yeah, like same story. City were already kind of steamrolling ahead, as is Man City's way of doing things. And while I'm speaking about Man City, Dave, I might as well tell you, spoilers, I got Man City in the Champions League semi-final, which meant I had to play them 3 times in a row.
Yeah, because we had them in the league, yeah.
Exactly. So Wednesday the 1st of May, Saturday the 4th of May, and Wednesday the 8th of May. 3 games against Man City in a week. In Football Manager, that's just not fun.
It happens quite a lot, on FM, where you get like back-to-back games. Well, 3 in a row is quite rare, I would say. Obviously,
3 like in a week,
legs.
Yeah,
in a week as well, yeah.
So I might as well quickly fill you in. We drew with them at home in the first leg of the Champions League. Mikel Merino scored. And you know what? Actually, Mikel Merino was quite good in this Carolero role. Not really scoring any goals, but I find that Carolero role just seems to do pretty well in terms of average ratings. So it was picking up a lot of 7s here, 7, 7.2, 7.4. So he scored and Bernardo Silva equalised. So 1-1 at home in the first leg of the Champions League semi-final. We then played them at home again 3 days later. This time, and again, it's happened again, Dave. They were 1-0 up through Ilkay Gundogan. On 84 minutes, Havertz scored. And who pops up with a late 86-minute winner? Gabriel Martinelli, super sub. And again, he's completely out of position. I don't know why Saka can't play out of position, but Martinelli can do it when he's on. So that is game 2 against City. And then I'll quickly finish off the last City game. So Champions League semi-final, 1-1 in the first leg. We're going to the Etihad. Phil Foden opens the scoring on 31 minutes. And Dave, you're going to laugh. This is actually ridiculous now. 90 plus 4. Gabriel Martinelli.
No way.
Substitute again.
Oh my God.
104 minutes. Extra time. Gabriel Martinelli scores again. He got an 8.8 and I brought him on in 78 minutes or something. And I don't know. I have no idea. And he wasn't even going on as a striker. I was mostly bringing him on for.
Was it number 10 like?
It was a number 10. It was depending on Saka or Havertz. If one of them was there was always a game where one was shit and the other one was fine. So it was basically just kind of one on for the other. I never really put him on up front because sometimes I would push Havertz up if Jesus was playing bad, but Jesus actually was pretty good. So Dave, that means thanks to Gabriel Martinelli, super sub, Champions League final. So if all else wasn't going great, we're in the Champions League final with Arsenal. So that's not bad. And then I drew 2-2 with Everton and beat Fulham 2-0.
Yeah. Well, obviously I was in the semi-finals. I got Liverpool. So sort of similar-ish situation. We had to go to Anfield for the first game early May and drew 0-0. Which was tough because you never like to go into the second leg level, but it was obviously going to be at the Emirates, so that was a big sort of boost for us. We then played City, who, like I said already, they'd already won the league, but we drew with them 2-2. So bearing in mind we had such a poor month in April there, we've sort of held Liverpool, held City. City actually went ahead twice, so we had to fight back twice. De Bruyne opened the score and Jesus equalised. Haaland then put them ahead in the last 10 minutes, and then Horta had equalised. And then in the second leg against Liverpool, so bearing in mind, David Raya got an 8.2, which probably says it all, really. But we did beat them 2-0. Massive result. Thomas Partey scored an absolute screamer. And then Saka scored. So that's when I was starting to get a little bit of joy out of Saka. And it was about now where it sort of settled on the roles that I was talking about earlier and pretty much settled on an 11 because I think after that game, I just kept the same 11. So for against Everton, we beat them 4-1 away. We smashed them. Jesus got a hat trick. Havertz scored as well. That Everton actually went ahead with Calvert-Lewin, but we beat them 4-1. We then beat Fulham 2-0. Ben White and Ødegaard scoring. So we ended up quite strongly in the league. Unfortunately, we finished third still because Liverpool finished ahead of us. We only finished on 80 points. Liverpool 83 and City 91. But then obviously we had the Champions League final where I drew PSG in early June.
Ooh. Right, hold on that one. So 2 Champions League finals for the boys. And I'm just going to say it now. Doop did not get to the Champions League final. Just going to throw that in there.
He didn't say he got to the final. I'm sure he would have.
Well, I'm sure he would have, unless he didn't continue that far.
Day, but that's it, he said.
That's what he said,
Which we have to put an asterisk next to because we have no proof and he's not here to actually tell us that. So.
He's not here and he's a cheating bastard. Yeah, because after those 2 results then following the Champions League semi-final, I drew against Everton and beat Fulham, but I won a couple more games than you. So I actually finished second with Arsenal. We finished on 87 points. City were 8 points clear. They had 95.
Wow.
And Liverpool actually tailed off at one point. They only finished on 80. I'm actually just looking at their schedule now because they lost their last 2 games of the season against Spurs and Man City. So they actually ended up I was comfortable basically finishing in second, which was nice because he was able to slightly rotate. Because in the Champions League final, who did we get? Drum roll. Real Madrid.
Ooh.
You don't want Real Madrid in the Champions League final in Football Manager. You really don't.
Full stop in real life, do you? Yeah.
It's as Mbappe, Bellingham, fucking Vinicius, as good as they are in real life, they're even better in Football Manager.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right, who goes first on this Champions League final?
I'll go first because you've probably got a tough. PSG are still good, but when I got that draw, I thought, I sort of felt like, especially with that little run of form that we got on at the end. We just settled on that 11. It's crazy that Kieran Tierney and stuff were going to be in my sort of best 11, and Saka then somehow made it in after really struggling to break into my team, but. Half an hour gone, Kieran Tierney opens a scoring. Lovely left-footed strike on the edge of the box, right across the face of goal into the back of the net. Second half, about 25 minutes ago, Ødegaard, unbelievable free kick, top bins to go 2-0 up. About 5 minutes ago, Lucas Torreira, ex-Arsenal, is he? Yeah. Second booking, sent off. And we were just able to see out the game. It was genuinely, throughout the whole save, probably one of the most straightforward games of football that I had to play. And I couldn't believe it. After that Spurs game, I genuinely thought I was going to get sacked. But I don't know what clicked that last month. Because I changed the roles for the Leipzig game, in the middle of that pack of crap results. But it just clicked. So I obviously found the players that worked. And to win the Champions League, I think out of the 3, the Prem, the FA Cup, or the Champions League, you would want to win that anyway. So I'm very happy that I managed to win that. A little bit disappointed with how I did in the other competitions, but at least I got a piece of silverware.
I mean, you've been doing a Pentagon save for about 17 years this year.
It's my silverware now. It's my speciality.
How quick did you win it? You took over a club and won it after 3 months. Not fair play, man. I'll tell you what's happened to me. So, first bit of bad news that happened in game. Kind of around first or second week in May. I was in and around those semi-finals. Declan Rice, it says fractured leg, basically broken his leg.
Yeah.
And it was 3 to 5 months or something. So he was gone for the end of the rest of the season. But more upsettingly, in terms of the narrative of how my save is going and how poxy and jammy I've been, Gabriel Martinelli, shin splints. I'm sorry, but no professional footballer is getting shin splints after playing a full season and training for a full season. I just don't buy that. Shin splints, 7 to 10 weeks. So my super sub, my only hope, gone. And there was a third player got injured as well. Ben White did his knee and he was out for 6 weeks. So going into the Champions League final against Real Madrid with a few injuries. And again, it's fucking Real Madrid. I'll just open the result. As you can tell by my tone, didn't go exactly according to plan. Now, they obviously had Mbappe starting. They had, interestingly, they did have Bellingham. They were missing someone else. Oh, they didn't play Rodrigo. That was another one. Vinicius played. Modric started the Champions League final as well. 15 minutes, they went 1-0 up through Brahim Diaz randomly.
Mm-hmm.
And Camavinga makes it 2-0 in the second half. The only positive I took from the first half is that Mbappe went off injured, which was lovely to see. But I was 2-0 down at half time and my super sub isn't there. And just poor performances. Saka was crap and Havertz was crap and Gabby Jesus was poor as well. So I ended up like Havertz, I took him off and I think he was on a 6.1 or 6.3. 6.3, I can just see it here. And because I didn't have Martinelli, Dave, probably for the first time in the whole 3 months, I brought on Raheem Sterling.
Okay.
I was like, well, he's played some big games, he knows his way around. He scored on the 70th minute to make it 2-1. So I thought, maybe a glimmer of hope. But from there, it just finished. Nothing.
Oh.
No more chances. When the highlights just, you're looking at that clock and you're like, give me a highlight, give me a highlight, give me a highlight. Nothing. So we lost the Champions League final 2-1 against Real Madrid. So we end up trophyless. But I will take it. Not a bad season to finish second with this tactic. And those injuries, I think those injuries really didn't help. Losing Declan Rice was a balls. Yeah. Because you're having to rely on Jorginho. I don't really like Partey. Maybe that's just because, it's Thomas Partey.
Personal.
Yes. And I was just gutted to lose Martinelli because he was just such a weapon off the bench. Like 3-4 times in those 3 months he was scoring like goals. So that's okay. I'll take it.
It's weird because probably in terms of results, obviously without seeing Doop, so I probably had the worst set of results out of the three of us, but probably won the toughest. Although my running was favourable, probably won the toughest trophy out of the three. But I think if Doop genuinely won the league, that's a good feat because City was on fire on mine. Like even on yours, I was crap and they finished way ahead of me. But yeah. So it's probably a good job Doop isn't here, Mad, because he would have wound you up for not winning a trophy. So
he winds me up on every podcast.
Anyway,
but, I wouldn't be hosting if he was here.
Yeah, if anyone did get involved in this challenge, if you let us know how you got on either if you're watching on YouTube in the comments or drop us a tweet or whatever. Because it'd be interesting. Like the Palace save, we had some interesting results. So on next week's show, we could talk about how you guys got on the Arsenal save. If you want, I'll leave a link in the description of the pod. So if you are intrigued, it shouldn't take you too long. Like we said, it's 3 months worth of pictures there. So a few sittings of FM, you probably get it done. So if you want to get involved, I'll make sure I leave another link for it in the description of the podcast.
And you just have to drop that file into your saves in the games folder. So you went to your documents, Sports Interactive, Football Manager 24 and games. And the tactic is already set up in there, the Christmas tree. It's a fucked up tactic though.
Just put your own balls or whatever, do it. It's very hard. Very hard to get
especially when you have wingers and you're trying to squeeze them in and stuff. It's a strange one.
Arsenal are probably one of the last teams that work really with that because they have so much joy with tactics. They haven't really got a proper big number 9 that you could put as that lone striker. The fullbacks really aren't built for that sort of system either. So interesting. Now it's a good challenge. Nice to mix it up a little bit anyway.
So as we sit here recording, it is the 5th. It's Sunday the 5th of January. So pod will be out in the morning. Question will be, Dave, for you and me. Should we try and squeeze in another challenge? Are you playing any FM at all? Do you have any other save on the go?
I haven't got any other saves on the go. I was planning on doing one. Genuinely, I don't know where, like I said earlier, I don't know where the Christmas and New Year period went. Obviously played this, but I haven't really had any other time to play any Football Manager. So I doubt I'll squeeze in another solo FM save now up until the beta probably. So I'll be interested in another challenge, to be fair, maybe over the next few weeks or so.
And of course, if anyone has any suggestions for challenges, I'm still ticking along with my Deportivo save. Again, like that, I didn't play a huge amount of FM over Christmas because I was just moving around a lot and drinking far too much. Don't drink and play FM, kids. In fact, kids don't drink at all. But I'm still plugging away at it. I think I'm in my 5th season. I'm still really enjoying it actually. So I'll keep plugging away at that. But we might do another challenge. And then we're probably speculating, Dave. We'll have to speculate because we don't know much. But from an FM25 perspective, we think sometime in March, probably the end. I don't know if a date. I don't think there's been a date launched, announced for it yet. Specific date in March. I think we were just told March.
I think so. Let me see.
The original date was the 26th of November. So my guess would be the 26th of whatever that Tuesday is towards the end of March. That would be my guess.
It just said from March. So it could be at
25th of
any
March
point,
is a
really.
Tuesday. That would be if I was a gambling man, I would be looking at that day. So we don't know if there'll be any kind of beta at all. Hopefully there will. There usually is. So I'd say, we still probably have the bones of a month maybe before we might see something. But again, we can only speculate. We know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But over the next few weeks, we'll be talking a lot about FM25 as well, doing a few specific spotlights. And at some point, we may have a talk about what saves we might do, Dave, for a bit
Yeah,
of
I still
beta
don't
and a
know.
bit of
I'm none the
FM25.
wiser, really.
I don't either. I
I think the obvious one for a lot of people listening is probably, he's just going to do a wall save again. But I probably will do that at some point. But I don't know, I want something interesting. The Pentagon's great. It's good fun and I can sort of skim through it and stuff like that. But it's a draining challenge and it's a difficult one because you can get... I had at points throughout FM24 where I sort of fell out of love and I had to almost force myself to get back and play the game. That's the sort of challenge it is. So I don't know. I sort of going back to what you said earlier, if anyone listening has got challenges for us to do as a group between obviously now and the new game, but also throughout FM25, we want to challenge each other and stuff. And if it's a half a season challenge or a season challenge, let us know. But yeah, I want some sort of challenge to sink my teeth into. But I'm not too sure on what I'm going to go for just yet.
There'll be a moment of divine inspiration, and you'll come up with something. I think you should do a Wolves Regionaire, so you can only sign players from let's say the Midlands,
West Midlands.
Or, West Midlands. Yeah,
there's quite a decent pot of players,
There's some decent players. Yeah. So I actually wrote a little blog about the Regionaire. If anyone doesn't know, it's basically you can only sign local players. I'm just actually looking for it now because, like, I actually kind of specified each. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not state.
Region.
The regions of the UK. So there's 9, I think, in England, right?
Something like that, yeah.
So for West Midlands, I think Jude would fall into that, wouldn't he?
That's what I was going to say. If I did one with Wolves, Jude wouldn't join because I've tried this. Unless it's changed a little bit. I tried this a few years ago when I was at a good place and I had a bid accepted by Real Madrid when I was managing, or he may have been at Dortmund at the time, and he wouldn't join Wolves because of his ties to Birmingham City, which I think is BS really. But there's some good players. You got like the Grealishes and the. Again, not
James
Madison.
I actually picked out. I wrote this about 2. It was FM 22 or 3. Yeah. James Madison is from there. Obviously, Joby Bellingham could be one to look at. Aaron Ramsdale, Jack Harrison, Ben Diaz.
Loads Birmingham way, really. So
you'd be looking at. So basically, for any of the listeners that don't know the geography side of it as well, because I'm Irish and I definitely didn't know before I started looking at it. If Dave was doing this, he could only sign players that were like born and raised in places like Birmingham, Wolverhampton, Coventry, Stoke, I suppose, or anywhere around outside Birmingham.
I don't think Coventry is Coventry based as West Midlands.
I have it down as West Midlands. Yeah. No, I would say that as West Midlands. I think it is.
I'd say if I had to guess, I'd say East, but you might be right actually.
Googling it as we speak.
You're right. It is classed as West Midlands. I wouldn't have said...
An Irishman knows more about the West Midlands than the man who's from the West Midlands, listeners.
I wouldn't have said it was... I thought it was more... I mean, it's not... I would have said it's more East Midlands because they're more sort of tied with Leicester, which is East Midlands. They're probably sort of right on the border.
Yeah. So there you go. That's on 5starpotential.com. We might put a link for that in the description as well, Dave, that article. Give some people food for thought. Doop has been doing one down in Spain as well with Alaves, a little Regionaire for the Basque only as well. Right. We'll round things off, Dave, and I'm just going to put you under ferocious pressure make you do a quiz on your own and see how your knowledge
I hate doing the quiz on my own because remember last time you did like a Wonder Kid quiz on me and I was absolutely awful on it.
You were
exposed. People like shouting at their radios and their phones.
Doop had a good go as well. I think you'd be better at this one, and it's not actually FM based, which may suit you, Dave. Okay. And also, as a younger fellow, I think this will suit you in terms of the topic because obviously we just spent the last 40 odd minutes talking about Arsenal. And also because we like Wonder Kids, the theme of the quiz is I just have the list of the 10 youngest players, Arsenal players, to have played in the Premier League. Okay. So basically they're the 10 youngest since the Premier League kind of started. But just to make sure you're comfortable, most of them are within our, let's say, your generation, Dave. Okay. So looking for the 10 youngest players to have played in the league for Arsenal. Off you go.
Well, you got the kid that scored yesterday, Ethan Nweri, I would assume.
He is the youngest player to have ever
Nice.
played for Arsenal. He made his debut in September 22 at the age of 15. It's ridiculous.
Isn't it?
Good
Okay.
player, though.
Wilshere, he's in my mind there.
Oh, lads, he's on fire. Second on the list in
Oh, wow.
2008, age 16 years, 8 months and 12 days, Jack Wilshere in a 4-0 win in September 2008.
Nice. Okay. I'll say Saka. I don't know if that's too obvious.
Saka is in the list. He's number 7. When he made his debut, age 17 years and 3 months and 27 days in January 2019. Number 7.
So I know 17 issues. This is a bit of an out there shout because I think he was very, very young when he joined. He might be a little bit older. Martinelli, I'll go with your boy Martinelli. I think he's a bit too old though.
Martinelli is number 16 on the list. He was 18 when he made his debut.
Okay. Right. I'm going to be missing some obvious ones here, aren't I?
So basically, you'd have a few, like definitely within the last couple of seasons or the last 10 years, basically, when you would have started watching football. There's a few very notable ones.
So I'm going to think players that I've played for them that I would have assumed would have been Reece Nelson, maybe.
Reece Nelson is number 15 on the list. He was 18, but you're thinking along
Smith Rowe.
Smith Rowe surprisingly isn't on this list. He's not.
Okay.
I've got the top 20 or 25 open here, and I don't see him on the list at all. So now again, number 25 is still only 18 years and 7 months. So maybe it's just outside that.
Okay, Saka's on there. Oh God.
So there's a couple of fairly big names, and one in particular. I can start throwing you some clues.
You might have to. I think if you throw me a couple of clues, they'll start popping up straight away then.
So you have one player here who is currently playing in the Bundesliga, but came through the Arsenal Academy and had a random loan spell at an English club. And his random loan spell was at West Brom, and he's now playing for a very, very good team in the Bundesliga.
Oh, Serge Gnabry.
Serge Gnabry is correct. He's number 3 on the list, age 17 years.
I wouldn't have got that.
You nearly forget that he was there.
Yeah.
There is a player on this list who played for Arsenal, obviously. Also played for Chelsea. Is a manager currently, not in England.
I don't think this is the one you're on about, but Italy. I'll go Ashley Cole as well, by the way. I don't think that was the one.
Ashley Cole, interestingly, is not on this list at all. No Ashley Cole.
Sorry, wait did you say? So he's played for Chelsea and Arsenal. Started at Arsenal and he's a manager.
Among others. I mean, I could tell you some other teams, but if I name one of them,
no.
Very obvious.
But not managing in England, no.
No, he's currently managing in Italy at a club where he finished his career technically and then kind of slid into
Fabregas.
Cesc Fabregas is correct. Yeah. He's number 4 on the list.
Painful, but people are shouting his name as well.
It's always easy unless you're doing it under the pressure.
Yeah.
Right, there is another one here that Tom FM has all the time in the world for
Maitland Niles, yeah.
Ainsley Maitland Niles, isn't that what he called it? We used to have that. Didn't Doop used to have that clip?
I did a draft it. I could probably still find that clip somewhere, that video.
Yeah.
See, that's, I think, the thing I've got to think through, like the sort of players that have sort of broken through, but then probably moved on quite quickly after.
So
Iwobi's the other one, but have I said him now?
You haven't said Iwobi, but he's not on this list.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So you do have a player who, at one point, I think, was the youngest player to play for England at the time, or at least get called up to a World Cup squad. Theo Walcott is correct. 17 years, 5 months, and 3 days.
God, yeah.
Another player here who I think is still playing. I'm going to check if he's still playing. Came through at Arsenal. and then ended up playing for a while abroad, namely in Syria and also in Ligue 1. I can tell you he is British, but note that I didn't say English.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, probably Aaron Ramsey, no? Yeah.
He's got it, folks. Aaron Ramsey in 2008 was 17 years, 8 months, and 18 days.
I wouldn't say he was that young either.
Right, you've got two left on this list, Dave. One is a tricky one, and one I think you might get because he's currently playing. So he's in the current Arsenal squad, and has only just has only just joined this list basically this season.
Is his name like that Miles Skelly or something like that?
Yes, exactly. Miles Lewis Skelly.
Oh, that was it, yeah.
He's just broken into
I had him in my mind, but City have had a couple of young lads on their bench over the last couple of weeks, and I was like, I'm sure, I hope he's not a City player.
City.
yeah. That was it.
Nice one.
There you go.
Right, last one now. This might be a slightly trickier one, depending on your knowledge, Dave. This guy's had an interesting kind of career, let's say. Obviously came through at Arsenal and made his debut at the age of 17 years old. Bounced around a few different teams, a few loans here and there. I think there's a Brentford loan, a Coventry loan, a Forest one. He was at Hull at one point. There was a Brighton in there. But really came to prominence, I suppose, in the Championship in the last season before.
Is it Chuba Akpom?
Chuba Akpom. I didn't even have to say that he now plays for Ajax because he got a big move from Middlesbrough to Ajax.
Yeah.
Chuba Akpom.
I had a few of those, like Benica Phoebe, and I thought it was going to be someone like Yaya Sanogo. I had him like in my head as well because I didn't know how he was an FM Wonder
kid as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, Chuba Akpom.
Chuba Akpom is the last one, and then just outside the list you have the likes of Alex Song, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Nicholas Anelka is actually in there. And then you're going back to some old school champ man. For any of the champ man folks, Stephen Hughes, Paolo Vernazza, Graham Barrett. Dave, you weren't even born.
No, I've not even heard of him. I'm sorry for the people at home. That must have been a painful listen, but
not at all. It's good to have the challenge. And we'll see how much abuse Doop gives you if he does listen to the pod, and if he does return it to us next week.
Well, Doop Googles it anyway, so it doesn't matter either way, does it? So.
Sometimes I think he has access to the Google sheet that I put all my quizzes into, because there's days where he's just rattling them off.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he does in his spare time. But anyway, that does bring episode 385 of the 5-Star Potential podcast to a close. If you've enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review. Do let us know if you've taken on the challenge. Do let us know if you've any challenge suggestions for FM24, FM25 and the like. And as we said, check out 5starpotential.com for all our latest Football Manager content. 5-Star Potential is available on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and most other popular podcast apps and platforms, with a new podcast released every single week, except last week because we took a little holiday week. Thank you all for listening. There will be more from us next week. Say goodbye, Dave.
Goodbye, Dave.
Goodbye, Dave. Hello. Merry Christmas.